So I looked through the list and I was like, okay, what's a company they know? Oh, Wendy's. Wendy's. I go to Wendy's. I love their chicken sandwiches. Bingo. So let's buy Wendy's.
Hey folks, I'm Brooks Derrick, and this is A Lawyer, His Friends, and Food, a show about local business owners, their journeys, and the thing that brings people closer together, food.
Where are you from? I know a lot about you already, but just a little bit of the groundwork here.
Come on, I thought we know each other.
Yeah, I know. I just little snip, groundwork.
I'm from what one of my friends would call the dying steel capital of the world, Pittsburgh.
Okay, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he was from Elmira, New York, though. So I'm like, Elmira, New York is known for nothing, right? At least Pittsburgh had the steel mills at one time,
yeah.
and now we're much bigger into tech and healthcare. So in some ways, it's had a renaissance the same way the upstate of South Carolina has, in that like we had textiles down here, and then we've morphed into automotive and some other things.
So what brought you down here?
Television. Yeah, I mean, my first, my love growing up was like a lot of guys. You want to be an athlete. I wanted to be a football player, or a hockey player, because those are the two big sports in Pittsburgh. I was built for it. I was like, I was so built to be a wide receiver. And when somebody watched me run, they're like, wow, now I know why you're not a wide receiver. And so I did score one goal in hockey growing up, so I want that for the record. I had one goal.
Let the record reflect.
Yeah, I was a wicked wrister. But yeah, so I wanted to be an athlete, and then I realized that around 12 or 13, my athletic prowess is not necessarily in reality is not what I thought it would be. And so then I was like, I'm going to be a sports broadcaster, and I'm going to talk about sports, and that will get me around sports. And so that was kind of the impetus of why I got into television. And then the first 11, 12 years of my career was in television, bouncing around different markets from Augusta, Georgia to Tennessee, and then to Greenville.
And when did you come here? When did you get
2005.
And you went to your YFF, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
2005?
2005. It was kind of like right when everything was getting going. The ballpark, Floor Field, was just getting built. And so that was like the beginning of the West End really taking off.
Yeah. Clemson's still kind of floundering at that point in time, or
Clemson was your typical 7-4 because they only played 11 games back then. 7-4, 6-5 seasons. It was Independence Bowl, Liberty Bowl, Music City Bowl. It was like we're not terrible, but we're not going to be playing for the national championship.
Right. So when you're a wealth management guy now, when did you be like, decide I'm not going to do this sportscasting anymore, and I'm going to try my hand at this other stuff? What made you change? It seems like, from a guy's perspective, right? A man's perspective, a sports fan, that you had the dream job in 05, right? Like, or at least the track to be
Yeah. Well, I liken it to candy. It's covering sports is a lot like eating candy. The first couple bites are great, but if you're eating candy and a lot of candy every day, eventually you're like, man, I'm a little sick of candy, right? And so it's hard to appreciate that. But like if you're covering sports every day, 365 days a year, you can sometimes get a little, burned out on that. The lifestyle is, wild. I never would have met my wife if I was still in television. And if I was still in television, she probably would have divorced me by now. So it's just a crazy life. You don't know when these teams are going to be playing. You don't know what bowl games are going to go to. You're giving up Thanksgivings and Christmases.
Which is really intriguing and exciting when you're 20.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thinking about going into sports
It's
broadcasting.
a young man's game. But my dad got me interested in investing when I was a kid. So I wanted to be a sportscaster. And then I saved up money because I really wanted to be good at Nintendo. I don't know if you had a Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
sure.
Yeah, Nintendo. So you were great at Mario Brothers?
Yes. No,
okay.
I wasn't. I was good at Duck Hunt, but only when I got really close to the screen.
So that was my dream. I was like, okay, I'm going to be amazing at this video game, and that's going to be the cool factor for me in middle school. And so my parents were really savvy. They just kept letting me take all these different jobs to make money, whether it was mowing people's lawns or I had an evening paper route. And so I kept making money. And once I knew I had enough money for Nintendo, I was like, all right, guys, I'm going to go to the store and go buy Nintendo. And that's when they hit me with, you're not going to buy Nintendo. We are not going to let you spend any money that's going to get you just sucked into a TV all day. So that was once they.
Do you drive a hard case like this with your children too?
I probably will. They're too young for it yet, but I probably will. And so basically, my dad was like, "I got a better idea for what you have your money, what we're going to spend it on, and it's called stocks." And there's this company that you can buy one share of a stock. We can buy mutual funds, and so
How old were you this
I was about 13. This is before E-Trade got going, before any of them. So you had to actually like write a check and send it to this company to buy it.
So you're opening up like the Philadelphia Inquirer. What's the Philadelphia newspaper?
Well, I'm in Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh.
But yeah.
I messed
So
that up.
I was delivering the Pittsburgh Press, which was the evening newspaper. It's not there anymore. But yeah, see, you couldn't buy all the companies. There was like maybe 30 or 40 companies that
How would you know what you could buy and not buy?
They would tell you. They had a list of here's the companies you can
in the
buy.
paper?
Not in the paper, in this company that you got the book.
Like a mail-in thing. It would come.
It was like a company that would send you a book, and they would say, hey, here's how you could think about buying companies. Here are the characteristics you're looking for when you buy companies, and here's 40 companies that we can buy stocks for you in, and then here's the different mutual funds that we could buy them in. And so I looked through the list, and I was like, okay, what's a company that I know? Oh, Wendy's. Wendy's. I go to Wendy's. I love their chicken sandwiches. Bingo. So let's buy Wendy's. I still wasn't excited about this because there was no tangible benefit, I felt like, to me. And there was no coolness. I wasn't going to school going, hey, guys, I bought some Wendy's stock, right?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't do anything for you. But that was kind of the impetus of what got me interested in investing. And then finally, about maybe a month later, I was delivering the newspaper, and I looked through the business page, and I looked at the stock tables, and I was like, oh, my gosh, Wendy's was up 1 3/8 yesterday. I just made money, and I didn't have to flip any burgers, right? And so that's where I was like...
So you made that realization then?
Made the realization then. What I did not realize then, though, was that, like, whatever your parents are teaching you, I think you think that every other parent's teaching them. And so I just didn't know that anybody needed help, you know, buying stocks, investing their money. And so that's why I stayed on the track to go into sports broadcasting, because I was like, this is...
Everybody has this knowledge, you thought, right?
Yeah, everybody has this knowledge. So I learned that. I did not learn how to change a flat tire, so I'm still scared to death of 1 o'clock in the morning, blow a tire, and I've got to be out there, you know.
So you pay extra for the run flat tire, so you don't have to change the tire, right?
That's what I need to do. That's what I need to do, yeah. That's a helpful tip.
All right, so what was your first job? Like, you weren't married then, no children at the time when you're making this transition. Tell me about the transition. Like, how do you tell the bosses at YFF you're going to go be a investment? What are you thinking at that kind of transition point? Do you start like moonlighting at Edward Jones or something?
Well, there's no moonlighting, but yeah, you definitely have to make a break. But you know, you think about these things for a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, you give it a little bit of thought. But I remember very clearly I was covering South Carolina at Tennessee in Knoxville. Beautiful day up there. It was like mid-October. And the game ends, and I'm like, that was a great game. I love going to Neyland Stadium. I love Rocky Top. So all of the vibes were great.
Yeah.
And then I'm walking around the campus by myself afterwards, and I'm like, this was perfect. This was great. I've done pretty much everything I want to do in television. I didn't cover a Super Bowl. There's a couple other events that would have been fun to cover, but I've basically been able to cover everything else. So I was like, this is a perfect capstone on this. And that's when I kind of made the decision, all right, my contract's coming up in a couple months. I was thinking about going to Atlanta to do television, and I was like, you know what? Greenville's a great place. The upstate's amazing. It's only getting better and better and better. This is the right place and the right time to make this transition.
Wow. So you're thinking about, okay, my contract's coming up. I'm probably going to be, I'm at a fork. I probably won't stay here.
Yeah.
Because you need to make another jump, right?
Yeah,
at that
television,
point in time?
you're just generally in television, you're just trying to keep going from bigger and bigger markets.
Right.
So I started in Augusta, Georgia. It's the 115th largest market in the country. And then I went to like the 90th market up in Johnson City, Tennessee. And then Greenville, South Carolina. They were like 36, 37. New York's number 1, LA's number 2, Chicago's number 3. That's what you're trying to do, is just keep working your way down.
Up to those
and
places.
So, like Atlanta was probably top 10 market even at that time. And so there was like a thought of maybe going there, but I'm like, I don't really want to live in those places. This is a great place to be.
And so what do you do? Like, how do you get into that business? Do you go take a test? Do you you walk into Edward Jones and say, here's my money, or Northwestern Mutual and say, what do you do?
Yeah, so I started at Morgan Stanley. But yeah, you basically talk to a lot of different people and say, hey, I'm looking to get in this business. I've been investing for a long time. I have a love for investing. What do I need to do to get started? And so I started Morgan Stanley. You go through a whole licensing process, a whole training process in terms of how to deliver the services, and then you go out there.
What are the first things that when you first start in that business? What is that you blocking and tackling on selling life insurance because you don't have any money under management at that point in time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, some places do. For us, you know, at Morgan Stanley, you were trying to figure out how to help them go across all spectrums of someone's financial life. So, yes, some of it's insurance, but a lot of it's investments. Help people do education planning, retirement planning, all of these things. And so you're just trying to meet them where they were. And
are you cold calling people then, or are you?
I did all kinds of things. I mean, Edward Jones was a place where you would basically cold walk, you know, walk back and forth. And even at Morgan Stanley, I was like, you know what, that might seems more appealing to me is just talking to people face to face than cold calling them. So I actually did that a little bit, and I ran into some really amazing people down in Belton, and you know, I just had amazing conversations with random people.
So you're like, okay, this morning I'm going to Belton.
Yeah,
you just drive to Belton and walk around.
Walk around, yeah. And
for real?
Oh, absolutely. And
wow.
You know, the weird part was people were like, "Hey, you're on television." And I'm like, "Well, actually, I'm not on television anymore." So it led to some really interesting conversations. But and some of these people I still talk to today. And so that's kind of how I got started. And then you do a lot of networking. You just run into people, you talk to them. I mean, the fortunate thing for me is that my dad has always been so fascinated about other people. So he's always talking to people. I mean, he could come to my house in Simpsonville, and he could walk within a day or two. He could know all the neighbors because he's just going to walk around and just start carrying on conversations with people. And then, you know, he's real interested in their stories. And so I kind of have a little bit of that. So you just, you know, take a keen interest in people, and you just start meeting people along the way. And as you're meeting people, somebody goes, "Hey, you know what? I want to retire in 2 years," or "I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get my kids through college." And
do you remember the first person that said, "Here's some money of mine"?
Oh yeah. I mean, there were some people that I had met through television, and I told them, "Yeah, you know what? I'm getting out of television. I'm going to be getting into this." And they were like, "Oh my gosh, we really need some help. We've actually been thinking about this stuff. And so once you get started, let us know." And still clients today, and it's wonderful.
So how did it? Your Williams Wealth Management is where you are now.
Yeah.
Are they a Morgan Stanley under a Morgan Stanley umbrella, or are y'all a separate? Like how does that? How wealth management companies work is foreign to me. Yeah. So tell me how that kind of works. So you go to Morgan Stanley. Where's the next step for you? What happens after that to get to where you are now?
Some people stay at Morgan Stanley their entire career. So Morgan Stanley, just like Merrill Lynch, like Wells Fargo, these are all big, what they call wirehouses. So they're just big companies that a lot of them based in New York, and they're just and they basically have a bunch of different representatives all over the country, right? That was a great thing. In that business, you could be an advisor, and you could also be a stockbroker.
Okay.
Right. But for me, it was much more appealing to be an advisor. You're talking to people about and giving them advice on a whole wide range of different facets of their life, and you're not like trying to make any kind of commissions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's just a much more appealing process. And so I realized that I wanted to go into an independent space where that's all you can do is advice.
Okay.
And you give advice. And so that was the track that I took. I also, with my media background, really wanted to be able to communicate a lot more, because I think the biggest thing that people need is education. They need to understand, like, oh, what's possible for my life? If I start doing these 3 or 4 things, what could I achieve?
Yeah.
And the best way to educate people isn't to necessarily go, "Hey, you should start working with me, and we're going to do this for you."
Yeah.
You just explain this stuff in a very relaxed setting. So whether it's social media or now with my television segment on Channel 4, you can educate people, and then some of those people that you educate go, "Man, I really need your help, like full time to implement."
I like
those
this
things.
Yankee.
Yeah,
he can help me. He's not such a bad
I don't
Yankee.
come off as a damn Yankee.
That's right. That's
okay,
right. Well,
good.
you know what? You know the definition, right?
I think I am a damn Yankee based on your definition, but please tell me.
The definition of a damn Yankee is one that comes and stays.
Yeah. Nobody's kicked me out, though.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So you know what? It's their responsibility to kick me out.
So in this whole process of of doing the going to Morgan Stanley and then to Williams Wealth Management, like what was the hardest part of the process? Was there any I really screwed this thing up, I made a bad decision, or has it been sunshine and rainbows? Well,
I think it's probably somewhere in between. The arc of everybody's life, their career is a little up and down. And you know what? If it wasn't, you wouldn't have good stories,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I just think, it's definitely the right move in that the way you align your interests with your clients is, I think, better. And so from that aspect, it's right. And then my ability to, try to help educate people in all these different platforms, that part is certainly a benefit.
What's the weirdest, maybe like investment request, or one of the weirdest stories about?
Oh, so people that were, I had someone come years and years ago who was running slot machines or some sort of gaming machines inside gas stations, right? And it was, I guess, very, very profitable. And he wanted to know how much money he could invest. And I said, well, how much are you actually reporting on your taxes of this money? He's like, none. And I was like, you better talk to somebody else because I don't want to touch any of that.
This money needs to be you don't want to put this yeah.
That's right.
This goes in a mattress. Potentially.
That's right. I'm like, there's a little bit of like, you're getting a lot of illegal areas where you're not reporting this income and somehow you're investing, large sums.
Yeah. Is the numbers that I got to put on a piece of paper that go off to the government
That's right.
going to look vastly different than the numbers you're putting on the piece of paper that goes off to the government.
That's right.
What's a business that you've seen that makes a lot of money that you never would have known that people can make a bunch of money in that business?
All kinds of stuff. I mean, it's all the stuff.
I'm sure you're like, I'm looking for this kind of a client, right? And then like in your brain, that kind of client fits a certain mold, and then you walk in and you see like a heating and air guy who's got $4 million.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. It's the heating and air, it's the plumbing, it's the landscapers, it's the roofing guys. It's some of these where you look at the profession, you might go, oh, they might not, have a lot of money, but it's one of those things where a lot of people need the services, and if you can figure out a way to scale the business, and this is the true of any business. If somebody can figure out how to scale the business and go, okay, how do I create a model, get a bunch of people who can help implement the model, right? Then it's a gravy train, and that could be, like I said, pest control, HVAC, plumbing, you name it.
Any weird businesses like that you like? A lawyer friend of mine came by the office the other day, and he's helping somebody. They have a bad neighbor that's got like 100 birds or something in their property that's like squealing and squeaking all night long. Any weird businesses like that you've run across where people are just like making money? You're like, how in the heck are you making money doing this?
I haven't directly came across any of those that's as bizarre as that. But I don't have any great stories of just something that's completely out of the blue. But that would be fun. I mean, if those people are watching this, I'm fascinated by unique, interesting businesses. Fascinate me, whether or not that person ever become a client.
How do you get paid right away? If you have, I know you're coming from an every week paycheck, right, or every other week paycheck with WYFF. How do you get paid when you get into the when you go to work at Morgan Stanley? Are they paying you a salary?
Maybe a salary for a brief period of time, like maybe a year. I mean,
during your training or whatever.
Yeah,
maybe?
During the training. It's not. I mean, it's nothing. It's nothing I could raise a family of 6 on now.
Right.
And when I was single, it was fine. But it's supposed to help you bridge that gap. But I mean, it's like anything. It's like most other businesses. You eat what you kill, and so you have to just kind of figure out how you're going to systematically build a book of clients, and you have a little bit of a roadmap, a little bit of a ramp, but then eventually it's like it's all on you.
I've told you this before about one of my buddies that's in Charleston. Like, he had this sheet that it was before I understood like process goals and product goals and things like that. And his whole sheet was just it was his process goals. It was like, I'm going to make 10 phone calls a day that are pseudo cold. I'm going to make 5, face-to-face visits today. Like, he had all of these things on a sheet. Anything like that for you that when you first started, or even today?
Yeah. No, those are all great things. And what's great about those, I never grew up a big Nick Saban fan, but Nick Saban always talks about, like, the goals you should have are towards exactly what you're talking about. Like, what are the things you can control?
Right.
He goes, if a receiver comes to me and says, I want to catch 10 touchdown passes this year, That's great, but you need the quarterback to actually throw you the ball, right?
Yeah.
So you don't control that. But you can control that every time he does throw me the ball, I'm going to catch the ball, right? And so the same thing, you can control how many calls you make. You can't control how many of those calls you make. Somebody on the other end is like, yeah, I absolutely need your services. And so I think focusing on those metrics has always been key. And the key thing in life in general is that you just have to be persistent. You just have to keep going and going and going because the rewards don't necessarily match the effort all the time.
No.
So you put in a bunch of effort and you're like, well, that was worthless or that wasn't a lot of reward. But then later on, you put in very little effort and got a lot of reward out of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's just part of life. And so it's like, it's one of the helpful things. I mean, investing in general is a delayed gratification game.
Yeah.
You invest money and you don't get wealthy tomorrow. This isn't like going to Vegas.
Right.
And
unless you hit Wendy's.
unless you hit Wendy's, on an IPO or something, yeah. But yeah, you're not gonna. It's not gonna happen immediately. And the same thing is true of just business development. That doesn't happen necessarily in a linear fashion.
The guys that do what you do, they are, like you said, eat what you kill. It is a, cause you are a solo entrepreneur at all of a sudden, a snapshot in time. It is all about like when that money stops coming in on the salary and you have to start running your life on commission.
Yeah.
How was that transition like? Because you hadn't done that ever before.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, I had enough success early on.
You didn't have any kids or either.
I didn't have any kids. That was huge. We going back to controlling things. When you're single, you control your spending.
Everything. Yeah. You could get a roommate or two.
Yeah, right? I don't have anybody just breaking the crayons that they just bought, and now you got to go buy new crayons, or deciding that they're going to do gymnastics on the curtains and just bring it all down,
rip them out of the wall.
And now I got to go hire somebody to fix that, right?
Yes.
So that is the benefit. But I had enough success early on that I was able to bridge that gap to where the salary's tapering off and all of a sudden my revenue's coming up.
And how do y'all, I'm totally clueless on this. How do you make, I understand how you make money now. It's on the management of the book, right? But at early on, is the money, is it management of a little bit of a book and also commissions on some sales, or how does that work initially?
Well, everybody does it differently. I always just wanted to be on the same side, so I wanted to get paid for advice that you give, and so
the fiduciary.
Yeah, fiduciary.
Stuff.
I mean, it's just like you're
Fancy
looking out
word.
for their best interest, right? Versus if you're a stockbroker, you just have to be making suitable investments. But you're getting paid every time they make a transaction,
yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so it just seemed a little bit, I didn't care for calling somebody up and going, hey, let's make this transaction. And they're like, all right, are we making this transaction because Mike wants to get paid, or is this really what we need to be doing?
Yeah.
So I always want to stay on the advisory side, but that does present the challenge of it's not as lucrative early on as you're building your business. But it's like, if you're doing the business the right way, eventually all these things play out. You gotta always think long term in terms of what
you can live with your butt a little tight for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, that's true of all entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You get started in your business. I'm sure when you first got started, you had a bunch of overhead costs. You got to hire these paralegals. You got to do all this stuff, and then eventually all that stuff starts to play out.
Yeah. In a perfect world, nobody ever calls me a second time.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to call a lawyer we don't want to call a lawyer ever.
Yeah.
Right? But we're trying to, it can be like this, right? Because I don't have anybody. Now, some lawyers have, they might transactional work, do M&A, like mergers and acquisitions or whatever. They have entity clients that they're servicing,
that's right?
Like family trust or something that you might have, but for us, for what we do, it's every day you're looking for so it is a numbers game also, right? So the more people that you have under your roof, the more likely it is that you can, if you're treating them well and doing them right? But it's I can remember lots of times of being like, oh God, this is not gonna make it. And then they're like, oh God, I'm on cloud 9. And like, oh God, I'm never gonna make it. Oh God, I'm on cloud 9.
Without doubt. I mean, in your business, you're catching people oftentimes at like one of the worst moments in their life.
By far.
There's just a lot of psychologically built up into, helping somebody through that moment.
Yeah. All right, now I have a question for you. This is one of the things that I asked the other guys is there, and you and I have talked about some of this before, but is there something about lawyers, either how we do business or the stereotype or billboards or ambulance check, any question you've ever wondered, like, what the hell's going on there? Like anything something like that, like.
Well, actually, I have a couple. The first one is: Have you ever seen a lawyer chase an ambulance? Like I really want to watch that episode. Somebody needs to do that.
I think I need to do that. I need to do that video. Like, if I had a friend that had an ambulance, it would be really great to like. Or if I see an ambulance, I need to like pretend to run.
Yeah.
No, that's one of those things that that thing. Obviously, I've never seen that happen, but like that thing that it's actually against the rules.
Oh, so it's illegal.
It's illegal.
Oh, okay.
Everywhere, right? So like, and the idea, the idea is obvious. It's like, hey, lawyers are slimy people, and obviously they see an ambulance go by, they're going to run by and try to give them their business card, right? Like, but it's bar. I don't know when this came into. It probably was the 1800s. I think it's been unethical for a very long time.
Okay.
It doesn't mean people don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Not actually chase ambulances,
Yeah.
but it's to keep people from showing up at your doorstep. Like if your family member got into a car wreck.
Yeah.
And then the paper ran an article the next day that said, Mr. Giordano died in a car crash on Highway 14 last night. You don't want a lawyer showing up at your front door to talk to your wife.
Yeah.
Right. And so the ban is there to prevent that. And so, it's completely
Interesting.
Yeah. But that little phrase, ambulance chasing, has been around probably for 100 or more years.
Yeah.
So I guess not ambulances because there wasn't always an ambulance, but it's been around like in the way people communicate for a really long time.
Okay.
What else?
Oh, well, I love in your business the jingles. I love the phone numbers.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I love the billboards. And since we became friends, that's when I started noticing all these billboards down the highway. And I go, oh my gosh, these people are all in, what do you call it? Personal injury attorneys.
That's right.
Yeah, I was like, I had no idea that there was so much billboard space devoted to this.
I can't imagine how much it's a bunch of marketing money that's going up on them things. One of the things about those things that's aggravating a lot is that if you're looking, when you're going down the interstate and you look up at a billboard and you see like, I'll use Morgan & Morgan, right? That's that thing is size matters, right? Well, when you look up there, right? Yeah, that's great. I just threw a finger up, right? Because I'm on the interstate, he's like, the size matters, right? Because he's but if you any of the billboards that you see, right? If you look, there's itty bitty print at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. And the itty bitty print at the bottom, there has to be a South Carolina lawyer who's on the hook for that marketing.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at the print on the bottom, you can see where the South Carolina lawyer is located.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so for instance, for them, that guy is located, I think, in Myrtle Beach or maybe in Beaufort, right?
Okay.
Or if you have a lot of the TV guys, they're not even around here.
Yeah.
And so that is a really weird misnomer. Like, for instance, George Sink doesn't even own George Sink injury lawyers anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's on a beach somewhere in the Bahamas, I'm sure, right? And two, I think private equity lawyers own that practice now,
Wow.
right? So and the other thing that's aggravating about those things is that, like, if you see them on TV, right, and also on the billboards, but like if you see them on TV, and they're like, I got $5 million, and the person looks damn happy as a clam, right? Right. If you look on the television, it says actor.
Oh, wow.
Right? Most of those are actors.
Yeah.
Because if you get $5 million,
something bad happened.
Something really bad happened to you, right? Like, or something really bad happened to your wife.
Yeah.
Right? Like the people smiling that got $5 million and it ain't sunshines and rainbows, right?
The other thing that I never understood about lawyers, and maybe this is because, growing up watching the OJ case, but you think every lawyer is Robert Kardashian, is Johnny Cochran. They're always in court. And it wasn't until I'm learning, like, so much stuff gets settled out of court that, like, that's a very rarity.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've talked about a lot. What I talked about with Ryan and other people is like if you get into a car wreck and you come into my office, there's probably a 1% chance that, well, I'll say there's probably a 3% chance that you ever even walk near the courthouse. It might even be 1% chance.
Yeah.
And so like there's probably a 10% chance that I go to court on your behalf at some point in time for something.
Yeah.
But if we file your lawsuit, that number goes up a good bit. But like it's still very rare.
Yeah.
Because everything is in what we do most of the time gets resolved through working hard and building cases up and making sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's, and the defense is too, and finally come to an agreement about where the case can take care of itself. Versus like if I was a criminal lawyer, there's a lot more court.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what, all those guys were doing.
Right.
But there's still not a lot of court stuff.
You've been doing this a long time, but do you, it feels like, I feel like I would be falling asleep if I was reading legal documents. Do you ever get to that point where you're like, because you guys have to look at every single word. Do you ever like go, man, I am getting sleepy. This is like.
So that's a really fascinating thing. I think that it's probably like you reading a prospectus or something, right? Like because if I just read a random legal opinion, right? Like it's a little bit tough, right?
Yeah.
But like most of the time I'm reading something either A, because I am really, really interested in whatever that opinion might be. It might be a new thing from the Supreme Court and I just want to hear what they had to say about something, right? Yeah. That has no application to my actual business. Or I'm reading cases from the lens of my client's case and trying to figure out a solution, like, because what we do, all right, if you have a dog bite, all right, if you have a dog bite, if you own the dog and your dog bites somebody, it's automatic, you're at fault, no matter if the dog is dangerous or not, bit before or not. In South Carolina, you're on the hook, pay, right? But there's a whole lot of other areas where the dog can bite, and it might be somebody that came to your house to watch, like there's some weird things, right? And so in those other examples, when somebody comes to see you and their daughter got maimed by a dog, you don't know who the dog belongs to. And you slowly figure out the dog belonged to this terrible person, but they lived at this terrible place that had this terrible kind of environment that allowed the dog to roam wild in this, a common area, potentially an apartment complex or something. Then you're turning to the legal documents to try to figure out, okay, can I find a way to make the person that is over this apartment community liable for this dog bite, right? And so so you're reading cases from the lens of your client's problem to try to figure out a way that can hold somebody accountable for what happened to their kid.
Yeah.
That's what makes it not sleepy.
Yeah.
Right? The same thing when you're looking at stocks and stuff, probably I couldn't read that crap. Right? I wouldn't know what I was reading. I remember reading one of these really fancy cases when I was a brand new law student in civil procedure. And it was like from the 1800s. And I had to have, literally had to have the Black's Law Dictionary open, and I'd read like 4 words, and I'd have to look up the damn word.
Yeah.
And it was, the way that it was written was so foreign to me that like, I'm a science person, so like I always did bad in English and all that crap, as my accent could tell. But I had the hardest time going through this like it wasn't old English, but like the old writings.
Yeah.
It was so hard. That can be sleepy, but you're battling with your brain.
Oh yeah. Whenever I read some of these documents, I'm like, I can't come up with any of the legal words now, but it's like every word gets parsed so finely.
Yeah. And what I'm doing most of the time, I'm not reading like a contract. Those things suck.
Yeah.
Right? Like, now I might read some of them, but most of the time I'm reading like a Smith versus, apartment complex from 1989. Okay. It's a court of appeals case in South Carolina that's talking about a dog bite and landlord. In that example, I said like landlord liability for a dog bite in this situation. So it's all about its opinion about how they're applying multiple laws to this one set of facts. And then you're trying to figure out how close are my facts to this,
Yeah.
right? And if they're not close, can I make a really good argument that my facts match these facts, right?
Yeah.
That's the fun part.
Has AI helped you find those cases? Because I always wonder, like, how do you find the case that you're trying to?
So the AI on finding the cases is kind of hit or miss. We have a couple of different databases or libraries, right? There's Westlaw is one of the main ones. There's LexisNexis is another one of these big things. And then there's a handful of other little small entities. There's our bar. You get a fast case, which is now called VLEX. It's another kind of database. And so if you remember searching the internet before Google was a thing, you had like all these like Boolean searches. So you'd be like dog and apartment and landlord, right? And you'd hit enter. And so that would feed you back all the cases and you could click some buttons like in South Carolina, after 1950, right? And it would give you all the cases that had those three words in it. And so that would give you the stuff. And then then you're up to going through that. That's all about like, that's what we did in legal writing in law school, is like figure out how to search for stuff. And as the time went on, it got better and better. You could say, I want a case, like you could use natural language like you can with Google now, right? And now with AI, all of these databases or libraries, so to speak, they have AI bolted on top of them that is doing that work for you, but it's still kind of hit or miss on whether or not. What usually happens is it surfaces the right cases, but then it'll tell you like what this case means, and oftentimes it's not that.
Okay.
So it does help a tremendous amount, right? It helps a tremendous amount. It probably helps me not have to have an associate lawyer doing that research for me along the way.
Yeah.
Because it still gives you like this like opinion, and then it's still up to you to go through this to figure out like, but it has helped a lot.
Yeah.
Most of the AI that helps us is keeping track of all of the stuff, right? Like we can ask one of the agents to, summarize the medical records, or am I missing anything, right? Is there a provider in this 800 pages that I haven't requested from?
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of the place where we're really getting a lot of leverage on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.